Hi! First of all, thank you so much for stumbling onto my channel. My name is Brandon and this is my very first video. I've been wanting to set this channel up for a while now, so I'm so happy that we're finally here. As a little introduction about me, I have questions about literally everything, and I've often spent hours of my life Googling just to find the right answers. During this process, I've often found that information can be very inaccessible and sometimes really complicated to understand. So I've set up this channel to try and fight back against that. This channel is designed to find simple answers to some not so simple questions, and each week I've set myself a challenge to find the answer to a new question and share it on this channel. The questions can come from literally anywhere. Sometimes there'll be topics I already know a bit about and just want to share with you. Other times there'll be completely random questions and we'll be learning together. Above all, this channel will remain a light-hearted space that will hopefully provide a bit of entertainment for your week. That being said, it's time to jump into our first question. So I've noticed a huge increase in the amount of media coverage about how much the UK government is having to borrow as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. And I found myself asking, where does the government actually borrow this money from? Well, that's today's question. Who does the UK government actually owe its money to? Intro reel. So government borrowing is hitting new records, and all talk of trying to get the UK out of debt has disappeared. As we're likely to hear about debt for years to come, let's dive right into it. First, we'll start with the why. Why does the UK government need to borrow money? The UK government needs money to pay for the services that it delivers, and it does this by raising money through taxes from the people that it governs. Unfortunately, the amount of money the UK government raises in taxes isn't enough to cover its spending, and so it needs to borrow the money to plug this gap. It's this gap that we call the deficit, and the total amount of money that the UK government borrows and is yet to pay back we call the national debt. So the UK needs to borrow money in part to fund this deficit, but there is another reason why the UK government borrows money. This is to pay back old government debt. When the UK government needs to pay back money that it's previously borrowed, it does this by borrowing more money. Shocking, I know. So that's the why. Next, we're going to move on to the how. How the UK government actually borrows money. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking this process involves some shady backroom deals in some smoke-filled clubs, but the truth is actually much less exciting than this. In order to explain how the UK government borrows money, we first need to take a quick detour and look at what a bond is. Don't switch off just yet. A bond is a term you may have come across before. It's also a term you may have thought, that sounds so boring, I want nothing to do with it. But I promise this is really simple. A bond is just another form of debt, so just another way to borrow money. Let me give you a quick example. So let's say I needed £100 and I came to you and I said, hey, any chance you could lend me £100? You might very rightly ask, well, what's in it for me? And I would say, look, listen, if you give me £100 today, I promise to pay you £10 as interest in 6 months' time, and in another 6 months' time, I'll pay you another £10 plus your original £100 back. Well, that's pretty much exactly how a bond works, and that's exactly how the UK government borrows money. The UK government essentially asks people to lend it a fixed amount of money, pays them a periodic interest over a fixed period of time, and then pays them their original money back. These UK government bonds are also called gilts, so feel free to drop that one in the next time you want to sound fancy. So that's the how. Last, we're going to answer the who. Who does the UK government borrow this money from? And to answer that, we're basically answering the question, who owns all the government bonds? And the answer to that is in 3 parts. So the first group that own roughly a third of all the UK government bonds out there are pension funds and insurance companies. If you've got a pension, you've got skin in the game here, because what's happening is you are investing money into your pension, and your pension fund will be investing that money in things like government bonds on your behalf. So in a way, you kind of own the government bonds too. The second group are overseas investors, and these can comprise foreign banks, central banks, and even private individuals that invest in the UK because they see it as a safe bet for their investments. Now, the third and final group that we're going to talk about today is the Bank of England. And they hold roughly a quarter of the government bonds out there. Now, the Bank of England is an independent group in the UK that are responsible for all sorts of money-related things. Now, even though the Bank of England is independent, it still falls under the umbrella of the government. Why does the Bank of England own all of these government bonds? Well, about 10 years ago, in trying to fix the economy, the government embarked on a new experimental journey called quantitative easing. This is also called printing money, and you may have heard of it before. This doesn't involve printing loads of banknotes and just circulating them into the economy. Everything is digital these days, and the Bank of England is no different. They simply up a number on a screen, and then they use that new money to go out to the market and buy UK government bonds from other people. Now, these could be those pension funds and those insurance companies that we mentioned earlier, but the main and most important thing to remember here is that the Bank of England become the new owners of those government bonds. And as the Bank of England essentially fall under the umbrella of the government, in effect, the government basically owes itself the money. There's a whole debate about the process of printing money, and to be honest, that could form a whole different topic for another video. But for our purposes today, it's enough just to note that roughly a quarter of the government bonds out there are basically owned by the government themselves. So that concludes today's video. Who does the UK government owe money to? Well, number 1, pension funds and insurance companies. 2, overseas investors. And 3, that weird one, the Bank of England and kind of the government itself. Hopefully this means the next time you see this on the news, you'll have more insight into what the government is actually doing. So that's it from me today. If you've liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to this channel, and definitely stay tuned for more videos to come. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.